Now, whether you are someone who's like, I don't watch the news, and that is, in my eyes, sometimes something you do for your mental health, but sometimes also a bit of a privilege, right? Whether you are someone who goes, I don't like to engage with this, I don't see it everywhere. The truth is, it is happening. There is racist rhetoric on the rise. And we know with the rise of reform in the UK, we know with everything that happened with the flags, we know that there is more attacks on people from ethnic minority backgrounds, especially those from a Muslim background. Those things are happening whilst at the same time, people who look like me from backgrounds like mine, ethnic minorities, and also people who are from those religious backgrounds like mine, who are Muslim, who are turning up at work and acting like it's not happening. And let me tell you, that is one of the hardest things, to go to work and act like everything is fine, but then to also be dealing with the heaviness of knowing that people might not be okay with the fact that you exist and the colour of your skin or your religious beliefs. My name's Taz. I'm a woman. I'm brown. I grew up in Birmingham. I was raised by a single mum on free school meals. I've spent the last few years navigating corporate exec life. And what I've learned over the years is there is a set of corporate rules nobody is saying out loud. And that's why I created this podcast. This space is for us to unpack those rules and to help you figure out how you want to navigate the system and engage with it. I would love for you to follow on Office Real Talk on Instagram or TikTok, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, so we can get more of us listening and winning in the corporate world. Hi everybody, welcome to Office Real Talk with Taz. This is episode 11, and I wanted to talk about a few different things. What I've realised is the content that you guys really engage with and the episodes that I've done really, really well are where I talk about my lived experiences. So the next episodes are a series called Lived Experiences. What it means to exist in corporate when you are a woman, when you are an ethnic minority, when you are navigating some of the challenges that you might face. I'm going to get quite deep and personal, so I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So the first episode is about how to exist as an ethnic minority person in the corporate world. Now, for so many of you who are ethnic minority people, you might go, okay, this is going to be interesting. You're going to get into it. For those of you who aren't, though, there will be things in here that you may not realize. And there will be things in here that also impact you that you are carrying that you don't know about. So I would encourage you all to listen in with curiosity, whether you are the audience or not, and see what you can gauge from these experiences and how to exist in a world, in a corporate world in particular, which is made up of many, many different types of people. So what prompted this episode? There has been a lot going on in the media over the last few years, and I would say even over the last kind of 10, 20 years, definitely in my lifetime, which has been talking about, how to exist in a multicultural country, in multicultural Britain. Over the last 2 or 3 years, that has ramped up massively. Now, whether you are someone who's like, I don't watch the news, and that is, in my eyes, sometimes something you do for your mental health, but sometimes also a bit of a privilege, right? Whether you are someone who goes, I don't like to engage with this, I don't see it everywhere. The truth is, it is happening. There is racist rhetoric on the rise. And we know with the rise of reform in the UK, we know with everything that happened with the flags, we know that there is more attacks on people from ethnic minority backgrounds, especially those from a Muslim background. Those things are happening whilst at the same time, people who look like me from backgrounds like mine, ethnic minorities, and also people who are from those religious backgrounds like mine, who are Muslim, who are turning up at work and acting like it's not happening. And let me tell you, that is one of the hardest things, to go to work and act like everything is fine, but then to also be dealing with the heaviness of knowing that people might not be okay with the fact that you exist and the colour of your skin or your religious beliefs. So me being me and the big gob that I am, and also with my Real Talk philosophy, did a reel. And it was a Monday morning, like Monday just gone, right? So this is very raw. I'm standing in my kitchen. I'm literally ready to go to work. I'm dressed, blazer on, makeup on. And I just felt like I needed to say something, because the whole weekend I was just consuming news from social media and in my family group chats with my friends about what is happening. It was a conversation at the dinner table. We were constantly talking about, oh my God, is this where we want to live? Is this where we want to, kind of exist in the future? Is this going to be a safe place for us? I've got nephews and nieces. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about their safety, right? I thought, let me record a reel. And I was just very raw, not scripted, just said, the silence is deafening. We're all going to work. We're expected to exist around what's happened. That reel, it went viral. Famous people were reposting it. The comments, though, were on another level. There was 2 camps. There was the camp of people saying, thank you for speaking up. Thank you for talking about this. Oh my God, someone needed to be saying it. It needed to be said. I feel seen. A lot of people who think it but don't talk about it. Definitely who don't know how to talk about it at work. And the second was a number of people who were saying, give it a rest. I got told to go back to Africa. I don't know why Africa, I'm not even African. Told to go back to where I came from, go back to the nearest country. I got told to go back to the nearest airport. Some guy went on my LinkedIn and literally found out what I do for work and told me that I was a diversity hire. The victim card, victim, that came up. There was a third camp though, and this is the people I love, right? These are people who aren't from minority backgrounds, who are saying, we see you, we want to help, solidarity, we're not all like this. And by the way, just so you know, if you are not from an ethnic minority background, I don't think you're all like this. 100%. I get so much support from people who are non-ethnic minorities on topics like this. Is amazing. And I see you and I appreciate you so much. So just a shout out to that. And thank you for, standing with us. But those two camps I talked about, the first two, really, really were interesting to me. And it was showing me that there is a need to amplify my voice on these topics. Now, that's not why I set up Office Real Talk, just to talk about these things. But in the moment when it was happening in the news, I need to talk about it. So a couple of days later, I go and do another reel that gives people practical advice, right? Around if you do want to talk about this at work, here's your choices and here's what to expect. So many people are like, thank you, I'm going to use this. I've used it. It's been good to talk about it. I've had a positive response, negative response. My DMs went crazy with things that people couldn't talk about. But again, the guy who searched me up on LinkedIn went again, told me I was a Nepo baby. I mean, I wish I was a product of nepotism. I really, really do wish, because do you think I would have worked hard all my life? Like, I was raised by a single mom. We had no money and we still turned out really good. My mom still works. I wish I was a Nepo baby. But anyway, the noise around all of this, I just think showed me that this topic from someone like me needs to be talked about more. And I think people are looking at me to talk about it. So in the lived experiences series, I want to get into what does it actually mean to exist in a world where you are a global majority, but an ethnic minority in the country you live in, and so underrepresented in the corporate world where you are absolutely trying to exist and survive. So let me tell you some truths about what the lived experiences are. I don't know if you do this. I go into a room and I scan. And I'm like, oh, how many women are in this room? Am I the only woman? How many ethnic minorities are in this room? Oh my God, a black person, yay. Oh my God, an Asian woman, yay. That is not normal behavior, but it's the conditioning you get when you are so used to being underrepresented. And I know so many people who do it. And I know so many people that will walk out of a room going, oh my God, I was the only Brummie in there. I was the only woman in there. I was the only ethnic minority in there. I was the only X in there. I think that is something that has become so normal to so many of us. But it's not normal, is it, that we have to do that? It's also not normal, even though that guy, that stupid man, right? And I'm going to call him that, and I don't care if that offends anyone, went on LinkedIn, found me, said I went to a third-tier university. You're probably right. I've got a journalism degree, and I rose very quickly in banking. All fact. But I worked really, really hard. And yet, let me tell you this. When he called me a diversity hire, my heart sank. And that has happened to me 5 or 6 times in my career where I can remember just sitting there and feeling absolutely, I can't even talk about it. You know that sinking feeling you get in your heart? I was gutted. I was like, do people really think that about me? And I know so many people were sitting there going, oh my God, you're not. I know I'm not. But it doesn't stop me questioning that. And that is so sad. I've been called a diversity hire. But do you know what's worse? I've been called a token hire, a diversity hire by people who still work in the corporate world, who are men, who are white, who I've worked with. And they've asked me if I think I am one of those. So existing around those people is so hard. Is that normal? No. The thing is, though, when I said what I said on those reels, instead of having a intellectual debate, and I know so many people are going to say, these people aren't intellectual. That is not true. Some of the people driving these rhetorics in this country are the most well-educated, rich, upper-class people that there ever are. So we've got to stop the rhetoric of these people are uneducated, they're from poorer backgrounds, etc. That's not the only truth. But when I had these debates, when I raised my points, people didn't try to engage in an intellectual debate with me. They came for who I am, where I'm from, what I've done, my accolades to get here. They questioned my achievements. The system wants diversity in it. Yet, when you are diverse, you can be penalised for it. One of the reasons I also felt the need to talk about this is a few weeks ago, I posted a couple of stories on my Instagram of conversations I'd had recently, and the reception that I got from people was wild. My DMs blew up. I didn't realise how common some of this was. So let me tell you those stories. I met a woman recently who was hired into an organization because she had so much experience at one of the best, most recognized institutions in the UK. And she gets hired into a job and she's doing really, really well. And she goes for a promotion and then she's told that she's doing good, but they're not going to give her the promotion full time. They're going to give it to her on a secondment basis. They actually said to her it was a bit of a trial run. And she said, I'm either good enough or I'm not. I'm not going to do it on a trial run basis. And the reason she said that is because someone who had less experience than her, who hadn't worked in some of those prestigious organizations, who wasn't more senior than her, previously had got the job on a permanent basis. The only other difference between them was their skin color. Now, you are within your right to turn down something on a temporary basis. I've done it before. And she said, I'm not doing that. And she got told she had an ego. But she said, why should I have to prove myself to you that I can do this when you already think I can enough to have me on a trial run? Because the truth is, on that trial run, I will be hypervigilant. I will constantly be thinking about, am I good enough? And I know that you will not be sponsoring me to think I'm good enough from day one. So I will work twice as hard, have to jump through twice as many hoops and try and prove myself even more. And you know I've got the experience, you know I can do it. But when I've turned it down, you're telling me there's something that's wrong with me. I then had a DM from someone, an Asian man, right? He is amazing. He's worked in the Big Four. He now works at a big firm. He's one of the partners there. And when I posted that story, he said, the age-old, prove yourself more than everybody else has to, jump through more hoops to basically evidence that you are good enough. That is how we feel. And we have to work twice as hard. And there will be examples as long as, and as far back as I can go, of people saying to people from ethnic minority backgrounds, you work really hard, you're really, really good, and we think you can do it, but we'd like to try you out. You can say no to that, by the way, guys. And when you do, it doesn't mean you've got an ego and it doesn't mean that you are pushing an opportunity away. Because if you know what you bring to the table and that table is not for you, you will literally die trying to prove that you are someone who fits at that table, who belongs at that table. And that is no way to work or live. It literally knocks your confidence. Also, when I post that story, someone who I know got in touch with me, a black woman, and told me about when she was, kind of pregnant and she was put at risk of redundancy. And she was like, I didn't see that around me. And the bit that she was telling me, she's like, yes, I was pregnant. Yes, I was black. But I couldn't see any other black person around either. And so many ethnic minorities talk about the fact that they are treated differently. The conditions are different. The bar is higher. That is not made up. And the data proves it. So let me give you some data that exists that tells us that we still have a way to go in corporate around how we treat ethnic minorities. Right, so here we go. I'm going to read this data so I don't make any mistakes, right? 8.8% of ethnic minority unemployment in the UK versus 4.3% of white. So that's more than double the amount of ethnic minorities that are unemployed versus white people. Black, Asian, minority ethnic workers were nearly 50% more likely to be made redundant during the pandemic. 40% of ethnic minorities have had a pay rise or a promotion rescinded versus 23% of white workers. 13% of the FTSE 100 senior management are ethnic minority. Yet we are 18% of the population. And the one thing that I love to talk about, and this is a whole new thing that you could get into a debate with me on, there are brown men at the top of global organizations. Look at Microsoft, look at Google, look at IBM. When it comes to technology, when it comes to some of the biggest organizations in the world, brown men are at the top. You want to look for brown women, you'll be looking a really long time. I can think about Chanel and I can think about Pepsi, but actually there's not that many. And if you want to look for black leaders at the top of organizations, you'll be looking a really, really long time. They're very, very rare. And whilst there is more people on the rise from ethnic minority backgrounds in very senior roles, there is less than there should be. So the data literally backs up that we're not progressing to the top. And yet on the ground, the experiences are we have to jump through more hoops to get there. The thing is, though, we have been raised, most of us from ethnic minority backgrounds, to work harder than everybody else. Basically, outwork your competition and you will get to the top. And we all know that is not true. I could talk about that for ages, and I've talked about it so many times over the last, 10 episodes. Working hard is not enough, because if meritocracy was the answer, we'd all be at the top. Number one. Number two, we keep getting told by organisations, by their manifestos, by their values, by their HR policies, by their diversity and inclusion teams, we want you here and we value the difference that you bring. The truth is, though, it feels like people want diversity without disruption. None of the extra challenge, none of the extra views, none of the extra go harder, go that extra mile to make things more comfortable. It's about sometimes your face being part of the diversity, i.e., we can see that we have a diverse organization, but not the actual difference it takes to lead diverse people. The problem is so many people will sit here and go, well, my organization is diverse. We've got a South Asian network, and we've got a Black network, and we've got a women's network, and we've got a Sikh network, and we've got a Muslim network, and we've got a Hindu network. Who's running them? Who's running them? Because the burden to fit in, the burden to create community, the burden to belong, the burden to promote ourselves, the burden to be out there, the burden to educate is still on us. That is why I will not be part of a network. You will never see me join a women's network, a Asian network, a Muslim network, whatever. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. By me existing in the position that I am in, I am doing more for representation than anything else. And I already carry that burden. And this might seem unpopular, but all of those jobs that everybody does in those networks are all unpaid, are all extra work, are all side of desk. And they might raise your profile, and they're good to do that. 100%, I buy that. But when you become known just for that thing and not for the job you do, that then hinders your progression. And so many of us are caught up in that trap. You are known for being on those networks. You are known for schmoozing people at the top. How many of you have got promoted because of that work that you did? Some of you will have done through networking and sponsorship, but it would have been because you're good at the other job. How many of us are really making it because of that? It's unpaid labor, and it's the burden that we have. Same goes for women's networks. It's always run by women. And I get why we want to do it. We want to create a sense of community when we don't feel like we have it elsewhere. But herein lies the problem. We can create our communities, but the burden to do the work, to fit in, has to be done by the system. And organizations can't say they want diversity and then not do the work in what it takes to lead diverse people. Do you know how many Black men I've seen have to walk away from their roles because they're promoted in or they're brought into roles? And then when they struggle with how to fit in, when they struggle with their confidence, when they feel like they need something different, the system does not know how to lead them. It is not enough to hire diverse people. You must learn how to lead them. You must. The other thing is like this whole, I read an article once about like this whole belief about Asian women. We're subservient, we're too quiet, we're not confident enough, we're not assertive enough. That is the narrative out there by a lot of people. I've seen comments all over LinkedIn. I've seen articles. Yet, here I am as an Asian woman. I am not subservient. I am confident. I am assertive. And then I'm being told I'm too direct. The thing is, everybody thinks you're one way, and when you're another way, you're also having to live in that nuance and figure out where you need to belong. If we stay quiet and fit the narrative, we're overlooked. If we speak up and we disrupt and we challenge, like that lady who said, I'm not doing this secondment, we're told we've got an ego. We're told we're disruptive, and the system doesn't know how to handle that. So when you sit there and you figure out why are things not changing, I just want you to hear some home truths, right? The bar to work twice as hard is not there because you're not good enough. Sometimes it's there because people don't know how to examine themselves. They don't know how to examine their beliefs. They don't know how to examine how they're going to lead you. They don't know how to examine the fact that they might have things missing around what it takes to show up for you. Leading you differently means someone has to question their own experience as a leader. And not everybody is willing to do that. Everybody wants diversity, but not everybody wants to do the work on what it actually requires to move the needle and keep people who are from diverse backgrounds in the corporate world feeling seen, heard, and belonging. And we are always being pulled in to be the ones fixing the problems, lead the networks, put on the events, do the extra unpaid work, make sure that we're building the communities we are desperately seeking, making sure we are building the communities because we don't feel seen unless we're in them. But actually, that means we are always going to be fixing our own problems. And that is why every single person I know that works in DE&I, that is the Director of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, is Black, Asian, or a woman. And that's a job I would never do either. Because actually we need more people who look like me, who look like us in non-diversity, equity and inclusion roles, taking up space, getting to the top of organisations rather than existing in jobs where they have to fix the problems that the system has created. It's problematic in my opinion. So here's my real talk for everyone who has been going through these lived experiences. I have been through them. I see you. I've been you. I am you. This is still happening to me. It's probably happening to you. And it's not okay. And it's not in your head. And if you want to talk about it, if you want to feel like you belong, that is exactly why I created Office Real Talk. But I want to give you permission I want to give you permission that you might not be giving yourself, to stop accepting the lesser offer. You don't need to. You can have the audacity to push back, and you can walk away from situations that don't serve you. The corporate world is a big place. Careers are over 40 years long. Don't stay anywhere where you are going to have to jump through hoops. Now, that doesn't mean for 1 second that sometimes we don't need to do the work. But if you know that that is not your hoop to jump through, don't. Name what you're seeing and make sure you say it. Don't just accept it, sit there, internalize it and cry about it. I've noticed that my colleague has been treated differently. Here's what I've observed. I'd like to understand why. Use the COIN framework that I talked about in the last episode. Know how to give feedback. Know how to advocate for yourself. Know how to speak up. Don't cry. Don't get emotional. Go in and say what you need to say. And then shut up and wait for an answer. Silence is a very, very good way to let people reveal themselves and their intentions. Know the difference between staying in a role strategically to help you grow and move on, and between planning an exit from somewhere that you don't belong. You don't have to stay in a job forever. You don't have to commit to a company where you don't belong. You don't also have to leave without a plan. There is a difference between the two. Be clear about who you are, what you bring to the table, what you expect. Walk in clarity, not in defeat. We are not victims and we don't do that. Look, this system is not perfect, yet we will work on it, we strive in it, and we want to do better in it. But those lived experiences of having to jump through hoops, having to create our own communities, being treated differently, being seen as a stereotype one way, when we act in another way, we're not welcome, and then being told that diversity is all everybody wants, but it's not how it feels on the ground, it's not our lived experience, and people don't know how to lead us and don't lean in with curiosity is very common. It's not everywhere, and I'm not saying it happens to everyone, but if it's happening to you, it's not in your head. It's happened to me. It happens to me. I want to give you the permission and the tools to remember you can advocate for yourself, you can be audacious, and you can navigate your career on your own terms. There is room for all of us, and there is room for us all to rise, but we all must show up differently, and we must all show up for ourselves, because otherwise no one else will. I hope you've enjoyed that episode. I hope it's made you think differently. I hope it's made you feel heard or seen. And if you are not from those communities, I hope it's made you think about some of the things that can happen to us and what the data is saying and how we feel about ourselves. Thank you for listening. As ever, I really look forward to your feedback, your input. Please leave a comment on the podcast notes or contact me on social media. I'd love to hear from you. This was hard to talk about, but I think it's important that I do. And I hope you feel seen.